Hello friends, welcome to JavaFx 3D tutorial. In this video, we will see how to play multiple animation in a sequence. And if you see here, there are two start and end. Our animation will actually start here, and there is a intermediate stop at this location. And if you see, this is translate here. Here we perform a translate. After that, in this intermediate stage, it will go for a fill transition. We already saw that fill transition. Here we perform fill transition. T1, this is first transformation. Here we will make second transformation based animation. So the rectangle will sit here and do a color transformation. After that, it will once again make a move, and this time the movement is from top to bottom. Here it is horizontal and here it is vertical. So that's all our animation sequences. So there are three animation we are mixing and it will go in parallel. First animation starts here, the rectangle move from here to this location, then it will go a color transformation. With the transformed color, it will move from top to bottom. This is the end. Since we set auto reverse, then it will take this end as the start because of auto reverse. Then it moves to the original location, do the reverse color transformation, then once again moves from this location to the start. So we call this one as one cycle, and this reverse is another cycle, two cycle. And here we use the sequential transition. Sequential means there are three animation transition involved here. One animation is left to right, another one is color transformation, third one is the movement from center of screen towards the bottom of the screen. In the last video, we talked about path transition. Now we will look into sequential transition. JavaFx provides sequential transition class to play multiple animation. So in the introductory slide, we saw how it is playing multiple animation T1, T2, T3. Or say A1, A2, A3 in a specific sequence. That means T1 is played plus first. Once T1 is finished, T2 will start, and once T2 animation finishes, T3 will start. And we played that in both directions. So we know the auto reverse property. So when you use auto reverse, then the sequence will change. T3, then T2, after that T1. So we can create a separate timeline or transition based animation like T1, T2, T3. T1 is separate animation that moves from screen left to the center of screen. Then there is a fill transition, that's a separate animation. Then there is one more animation that moves the object from center of screen to bottom of the screen. So that's what here we are stating. We can create separate transition based animation. That's what we talked about here. You can also create timeline based animation, or you can mix both. So timeline or transition based animation and add it to the sequential transition instance. So we will create a sequential transition class, we'll create separate animation, then we will add that to the sequential transition class instance using the add or add all method. You can use any method, just like how you create other object and add to the observable list. The same way here, The sequential transition maintains a list of or observable list of animations. So you can create transition or timeline based animation, and you can add it to the sequential transition class using the add or add all method. The animation played in a order in which it is added. So that means here we are talking about T1, T2, right? So we will create a sequential transition class. After that, here you will add it like first you will add T1. So if this is the sequence, you are adding the animations using add all method, or you can also use add method. Then the sequential transition class will play the animation in the same order in which it is added to it, right? T1 is added first, so T1 will be played first. When individual animation does not contain a node, so here we are talking about a node that needs to be animated, or we can call it usually a shape that needs to be animated, right? When individual animation does not contain a node, it will be picked from the sequential transition. So to the sequential transition also you can specify a node. So if you specify a node, that node will act common for all the transition. So that means when you are creating these transitions, T1, T2, T3, you no need to specify a shape. So you can generalize the animation and place the node in the transition class itself. Or another way, you can create this transition with a different shape and add it to the sequential transition. Say for example, for T1, let's state that you are moving the circle. For T2, you are moving a cube. For T3, you are performing a scale transition of some other object. So here the individual node contains the shape that needs to be animated. So when these animations are added to the sequential transition, and when you make a call to the play method, all the individual object will take their turn and play their animation. But when you have a common shape that is given to the sequential transition itself, the same node will undergo all these transition, which is generalized in these specialized instances. I mean the animation instances. In this video, we will create two translate. So we know what is translate, right? By this time you are well aware of the basic transformation like translate, rotate, as well as scale. So here we are talking about translate. We create two translate in the sense one for left to right movement and one for top to bottom, and one fill transition. So we told that in the intermediate stage, the object will stay for a few seconds and it will go a color transition before taking the center to bottom movement. Right, in this video, we will create a two translate, these two, then one fill transition. And we assemble that to the we give that to the sequential transition. Sequential transition class will take care of laying the individual animation in a sequential order in which they are added to the class. Now let's look at the code. So this is the rect, right? RCT1. This will go for the change. So we are creating a rectangle, width 80, height 50, color is chocolate, you can see that here, and we are setting the initial location towards the left edge of the screen. So that's the start right here. So then we are adding it to the stage. So we create a rectangle, we set a initial location, then we are adding it to the stage. Next, we create a translate transition. So this is our first animation, A1. So translate transition TS1, it will play for 5 seconds. And if you see, we doesn't specify any node here. We doesn't pass a rectangle here. We just generalized the animation. So translate animation, which will play for 5 seconds, and it will have the initial location -358 and true location 0. So this is the true location for the first animation, A1. Right? Start, end on this one. So this is the A1. So for this, we are setting the cycle count as 1. That means the sequential transition will play the animation in sequential manner. If you set cycle count, then it will go here and swing for the number of cycle count, then animation will end. But here we set only 1, that means start, end, animation finishes. So it will trigger the sequential transition class that animation 1 is finished. You can start with the second animation, right? Alright, here we generalized it. It's a translate animation that plays for 5 seconds. From left to right it is moving, and there is no cycle or only one cycle. Next, we create our second animation here, A2. This is also a translate, right, which will play for 5 seconds. Start location is 0, 0, and the end location Y is 100. So here we create a, so this is the, I think here we are creating the stack pane. So center will be from here. So this is the center 0, 0. So from 0 it will move to 100. This is the Y direction, and we end here. So start, end for this second animation. We can call it as A2. Then we create one more animation, A3, and it's a fill transition. Plays for 5 seconds. Initial color is red and color is blue. Cycle count is 1. And if you see, here we create sequential transition class, and to this class we are adding the shape. What node we want to animate? We want to animate rectangle, so we specified rect1 here. Next, cycle count is 2, so here we create animation for 1 cycle, start to end, color transformation, start to end. So that's 1 cycle. Since we set cycle count as 2 for this sequential transition, it will play back in the same location. Next, we get sequential transition, get children, add all method we are making, call, and if you see, the order in which we add the animations are different. Even though here we created A1, A2, A3, so this is A1. Next we create A3. That's the order we are adding it. Finally, we have A2 here. So that's why if you look at animations are A1, A2, and this color transition is A3. Right, so it will be played in this order: A1, A3, A2. So play, and these we named this as transition chain sequence, and when we make a call to play, it knows that there are 3 animation linked to it: translate, fill, and one more translate, and it will play in the same order. Now let's go to the demo and make the code change. So this is our previous example. Now we will create a copy and we will do a refactor paste here. Okay, forgot the number. Path transition, right? 15. I should have taken from here itself. All right. So now it is a sequential transition. Sequential transition example. So just pasted the code from the example. If you see here, we are creating the stack pane. That's why the origin shift towards the center, and we are setting the size of our stage as width 800, height 400. Just set the name. We are creating the rectangle. This will be animated and translating it to the left edge of the screen from the default center. So initially the rectangle will be drawn towards the center of the stack pane, or we can say center of the stage. Since it uses the stack pane, the origin is towards the center. This rectangle will be towards the center, and we translated it towards the left edge of the screen. So the rectangle is towards the left. Here we perform our first transition, JavaFx animation translate transition. Duration is 5 seconds. Next we create one more translate transition. Duration is 5 seconds. So we created our 2 transition here. Then we created the fill transition as well. So all this stuff you know from our previous example. And here we create sequential transition. Node is rectangle 1, so we are giving the shape. Rectangle needs to be animated. Then cycle count is true. Cycle count is 2. Auto reverse is true, and we are adding the animations to our sequential transition class. So the order is first translate, second fill, third one more translate. Since we have auto reverse true and cycle count is 2, this animation will be played first. Because of auto reverse, it will be played in reverse order. Translate 2, then fill, after that translate 1. Alright, now let's go ahead and play the animation. First we will build it. And you can see it now, the sequence. So that's a first animation. Color transition is going on. So this one is the third animation, and auto reverse is taking place. Color will go back to red, and it will move to the start. So that's all the sequence. Let me run once again so that you can see all three animation and how the reverse is taking place. Alright, that's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.